Hey, this is Ramon, Channels Alpha 4, and this is going to be a clean read-through of my review of 12 Rules for Life. My previous video had syncing and audio issues. I've been getting error 404, 505, and 555, I believe, on my video uploads for the last 3 days. It's not affecting any of my religious videos or Muslim or videos in the Quran, but it is affecting any of my political stuff, which is odd. So, not to feed into the paranoia that's out there currently, but I am going to also retitle this, and instead of calling it a review, instead of calling it Where Jordan B. Peterson is Wrong, Revisited, a review of 12 Rules for Life, I'm instead going to call it a critique of JBP and a review of 12 Rules for Life, to see if, by taking his name out of the title, if somehow the syncing issues magically disappear. So let's go. This is going to be a very dry read through, and it's going to be a very clean read. So don't expect a lot of edits, even though I think I've already had to make one. You will hear me go and huh and I usually cut all that stuff out. I'm not going to do that this time, because last time I did that for a political video, suddenly my video didn't even work. So, let's see what happens. A few months ago, I made a video critiquing Jordan Peterson's bellicose approach at that time, explaining how his all or nothing, you either agree with me or you are a postmodernist neo-Marxist approach, was overgeneral and came off a bit paranoid. Too easy for the far left and the alt-left to caricature. As I had my revelation about him, I made that video off the cuff, and it showed. But I posted that video with the intent of doing an immediate follow-up that was more refined and better researched. Unfortunately, by the time that I got around to filming it, Dr. Peterson had released his book, 12 Rules for Life, and had become too hot of a commodity to convey anything not already being said, as the infamous Kathy Newman interview had just occurred. My intent in making that initial video was to answer his challenge to find where, if at all, if anywhere, he was wrong. So I did. It took me a long time to find any flaw with anything that he said. And finally it hit me. It was in his approach and his negative bias toward postmodernism and feminism, feminism here meaning collegiate women's studies, that was the problem. He was painting with too broad a brush when he needed a scalpel. Yes, I am mixing my metaphors. Then I read his book, and now, in my opinion, I finally have something new to say that is relevant and that is not being said by 1,000 other people on YouTube. Remember, I'm trying not to edit anything out to see if that helps with the upload. So you will see me lick my lips and smack and hear me smack. So sorry about that. To begin, let me tell you how I came across Jordan Peterson in the first place. It was not from his infamous Bill C-16 video, nor his cool-headed rational reaction to unreasonable protesters video. It was actually about 2, maybe 3 years ago, about a month before Peterson blew up in infamy. I don't like that term. Let me say a different one. It was a month before Jordan Peterson rose in infamy. I had a client who suffered from depression and from stress-induced panic attacks. So I was pursuing mental health videos I was perusing mental health videos on YouTube to try and put in context what I had been going through with this client. And at that time, I came across Jordan B. Peterson. It was a clip of one of his classroom lectures. And it was helpful. It was interesting. But most of all, it was forgettable. But after watching one clip of him, that stupid algorithm kept putting him in my recommended feed. I'd delete them. I'd see the two previous videos. Okay, it's out of order. Forgive me. I'd see his shooting star moments, and I'd hit that little X. Then, I'd put not interested as the reason why. I rejected the video. But then, my client had another episode. This was a few months later. And this time, while he was in the middle of a lift, as I am a personal trainer and a martial arts instructor. While talking him down from his adrenaline-induced panic attack, in his ramblings, he, a male, accused me of being sexist because I referred to my friend as female and I called her a bad chick, something she called herself and was quite proud of. We, her and I, often called each other bitches, dudes, and bros. He did not like this. I was at a loss. I couldn't think of a good response, so I got angry. I was insulted. How dare this individual judge my consensual relationship with a lifelong friend? Our interactions that he was not privy to. In his explaining why I was wrong, he parroted all the ideology Dr. Peterson warns about. That there is no gender. That men and women are objectively equal, biologically speaking. That data is just a social construct. That there are no objective facts. And that truth is entirely relative. That anyone can do anything as long as they believe. I answered back, well, if you can do anything, and you understand that physics says that wall has more empty space in it than actual matter, then just walk through it. Go ahead. If you can do anything and nothing is impossible, just walk through that wall right now. My client did not like that. He left in a huff. I was now desperate. I didn't want to interact in such a negative way with one of my clients ever again. So I started looking up mental health articles, once again, on Google. This client suffered from depression and major panic attacks, and I had gotten angry with him. This wasn't good. This was unprofessional. And late that night, after having no luck with a Google search, I opened up YouTube, and there, once again, was Jordan Peterson's face. During one of his chubbier phases, he had some goatee stubble and a yellow shirt on. I don't know why I clicked on the video, but I did. And he talked about exactly what I had just gone through. So I clicked another. No, it was this new video that covered exactly what I had been dealing with. And so it went on, video after video. By the time I made my video titled Where Jordan Peterson is Wrong, I had watched all of the Maps of Meaning lectures. All the years, by the way. And his Bible study series lectures. All that he had posted up to that point. And I had even subscribed to his channel. The truth is, I was hooked. He was saying things that I myself had said a million times before. Stuff that as a philosophy tutor back in college I had spoken of myself. back when I was 24. But something in his approach bothered me. I couldn't put my finger on it. See, before I went to college, when I was between 18 and 22, I had an extended lost year of sorts. At that time, I self-identified as a deconstructionist. During those early years of my devouring Nietzsche, Sartre, Hegel, and Marx, I even wrote for an underground feminist zine, and I lived on the beach with a feminist poet. So I knew well the ideology that he was lambasting. Something in his critique rang untrue, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Here was my critique of Jordan Peterson back in January of 2018. His advice to junior high students and his disability bureaucracy wants your so videos had just come out, and I thought that they were too reactionary and slightly overstated. That his refusal to be boxed in or defined made him come across as a bit childish, kind of like a teenager who refuses to be labeled. That his diagnosis that the humanities and women's studies are impossibly corrupted was too far of an overgeneralization and an oversimplification of the actual root problem. As good has and is and may still come out of these programs. And my final analysis was that his rhetoric went too far, or that he went too far in his rhetoric. So, now, how accurate was my analysis at that time, and has it changed after reading 12 Rules for Life? Well, I still say that Peterson's diagnosis of the social problem is correct, but that his solution to get rid of gender studies, women's studies, and feminist studies altogether, and to put universities out of business is too extreme. I still think that a more politically viable solution is reform of these fields of study in the form of massive overhauls, or a single massive overhaul, of their approach and attitude toward masculinity. An increase in the academic and hiring standards of those departments, and a legal requirement, legal here meaning maybe by a college charter or university charter, not necessarily national or state law, that all professors be published and those works be reviewed by their peers. Also, and this is just a little update on my end, as of that video till now, I'm still not Canadian, I'm still not a college student, and I'm still just a guy with an opinion and a smartphone, although right now I'm filming on a different device. But my presentation at that time wasn't perfect, as neither was the next review, which the video didn't work. Whatever, seeking problems aside. I did say a line backwards back in that original video. I had meant to say, in the current political environment, we cannot see the trees from the forest fire. And yes, I meant to say that those fields of study were impossibly corrupted and not impossibly wrong. When I was speaking of the positive investments, also when I was speaking about the positive advancements to come out of feminist studies, I overgeneralized. And I chose the wrong era of female authors to defend the positive aspects of the feminist movement. I meant to mention female authors such as Sappho, Sylvia Warner, and Elizabeth Gaskell, among others, as books that were hard to find back when I was a student. But instead, I spoke of Gothic and Victorian literature. But that's just because deep down in my heart, I'm still a metal-loving goth. You didn't know that about me. I used to have blue hair and piercings. whom thinks Dracula, Carmilla, and Frankenstein are still the best novels ever. But for all my critiques, Jordan Peterson has changed his tone since then, since that original video. Some have called this change the tale of two Petersons. He has one tone for his lectures, another much more cool, collected, and self-controlled for his interviews. Peterson also has begun to appeal more to ex-Muslims and to women in his latest lectures and interviews. Whether this is an advertisement and promotional approach for his book, or this is his personal views changing, I do not know. Or simply him expressing himself better after so much practice repeating himself. Peterson, on the other hand, to continue on, other YouTubers have noted this as well. So I'm not the only one noticing this tonal shift. And in all honesty, I still don't want to ride his coattails or his wave of popularity, like so many others are doing right now. If for no other reason, then the fact that he might yet crash and burn. He's a great guy, but no one is perfect. And I do hope that he makes it out of all of this attention without a bad slip of the tongue or a poor choice of action. Yet some of his flaws remain barriers to his message. A message he puts forth in his book. Barriers like his fanboys, for example. Many of his fanboys just saw the title of my previous video and went in to defend him and criticize me without realizing that my video was a defense of Jordan Peterson. I had to start screening my comments because I dared to question their hero. Yet, if you look in this channel, I make videos about the Quran where everyone in the comments is relatively peaceful. Many of his fans seem to think, going back to Jordan Peterson, many of his fans seem to think Professor Peterson can't handle some mild criticism. And that's not good. That is how a man, even a man who does so reluctantly, even a man who is great, gets put in the role of a dictator or a tyrant. Another barrier to hearing his message is that Peterson is still too hot of a subject on his own for most people to separate his ideas from his cult of personality. The barrier to hearing what he is actually saying is the fact that he is still just a human being, and he will eventually mess up. Whether it's a phantom skeleton from his past that may yet shake loose, or some other mistake. And then the fear for those who want to hear his message but are timid about accepting it is that all the good work that he has done may fade away. And then they worry that the message that they heard might become invalid, and they will then reject it, mistaking the message for the messenger. But for all that, 12 Rules for Life did answer all my latent questions about his work and his personal philosophy that I had. Although his shotgun approach to philosophy and the giving of real examples meant that sooner or later his critique and his advice would land on you. And it did eventually hit me too, and it burned. When he covered my flaws and my personality, yet I will also admit that it felt good when his approach landed on others' flaws that I had observed but had yet to articulate in my personal life. This book is and was cathartic in that way. And in that vein, Jordan Peterson's best defense of himself and his ideas is his book, 12 Rules for Life. It answers all the questions that I had about his personal philosophy, that I had dangling in my brain since I first came across him 2 or 3 years ago. It is funny that Peterson, a guy who was anti-self-help book in his lectures, is now a successful self-help author. And it should be said that 12 Rules for Life is a motivational book at the end of the day. But it is also a defense of all of Jordan Peterson's publicly expressed ideas and his publicly expressed claims. I don't know about his personal ones or his private ones, just the ones that he's expressed on YouTube. That has been made up to this point. He, as far as I can tell from this book and from his interviews and his lectures, is not alt-right. He does not hate gays. He is not transphobic. But he might be teetering on the edge of Christendom. And he might be slowly becoming a Christian. Though he may deny that depending on the day and on the interview. But he does hate postmodernist. He does hate postmodernism. He hates the ism, not the ist. So read his book. It is both edifying and enjoyable. Usually I edit out all those gaps, and this would probably end up being a 17-minute video. Right now it is 22. I'm going to cut it off at 23, so I'm going to let it run just a few more seconds. Peace, like, and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Sorry about the previous update. I really appreciate anyone who's bothered to watch this clean version, and thank you. Seriously. Please share, please like, please subscribe, please comment down below. Goodbye.